think.
Thousand generations falling down in worship.
Mrs. Moore comes up here, we're going to put her up on stage. She's going to share the joys of life. Some of you guys are 18, you guys are going to be 19 here pretty soon, or 17, you're going to be 18 pretty soon. I'm excited for her to share again. The kids that I was leaders of at age 20 were 16, and they're now 46 years old. And so when I heard the kids that you got to see 8 years ago, the ability to go back, she's a little bit younger than me, if you can do the math. Some of you will be in her shoes this summer doing what she does. So I'm excited to have her back up, share a little bit about her trip to Guatemala. This is cool.
To all of my past trips. This summer was actually my fifth, or this February was actually my fifth trip back to Guatemala, and just kind of explain, I'm going to explain a little bit about the trip itself, and then just kind of what it means to me and why it's important to me. So yeah, this summer, or this February, I've only ever gone this summer, several months. I was able to go back for about a week to a children's home called Eagle's Nest. They have about 50 to 75 children, depending on the time of year. There's kids there. This year, I was able to go back with my entire family. So I started going to Guatemala in 2018 when I was in high school, and I have not got to go back with my whole family since I was in high school. So it's pretty special to actually be able to go back and we're all grown up now. My sister's the youngest and she's 20, and so just to kind of actually get to do this as adults together was a lot of fun. And share this experience since I was a lot younger when I was there with my family. And then this is my husband, and I was able to bring him for the first time. He has never been, but we have been together since I started going, so he's always heard about it. He's heard a lot about Guatemala, and so it was really fun for me to actually get to bring him this trip and show him what this place means to me and the kids. And then a lot of the kids were like, oh, he's actually real, which is kind of funny because they've heard a lot about him and never met him, so it was kind of fun for them to get to meet him as well, since I have a lot of relationships there that are like family. So that was really cool. But on the trip, we did a lot of different things this year. Every trip looks a little bit different. Mission trips all look a little bit different. Most of the time, there is some aspect of serving. And so some of these pictures, I don't have very many pictures of working. I didn't take very many pictures of working. But some of these pictures show kind of the stuff we did. So this trip in particular, we did a lot of, guys on the trip did a lot of hauling of rocks, whether wheelbarrows or buckets. They were building a fence around the property to kind of protect the kids a little bit better from both people and dogs and other stray things. And so they are building a wall further down the property, and so the guys had the pleasure of carrying buckets full of rocks and sand and cement down the hill so that later on people could build a wall. We do a lot of painting. So this time of year is their dry season in Guatemala, and so in the summer they get a lot of American mission teams. There's usually one per week, but they can't paint because it rains too much. And so because it rains so much, there's a lot of painting required, and so one of the things our group always does is we paint. And so we painted a lot of walls, a lot of roofs. The roofs are a bit interesting to paint because they're very fragile. So like my younger brother fell through like halfway, and so yeah. But yeah, that's some of the work we did. It looks different every time. A lot of manual labor usually, but we worked from all morning till the afternoon at about 4, which is when the kids came out, and then we were able to play with the kids, which is my favorite part. So these are just some pictures. I have a lot of pictures. I could have put a lot of pictures up, but I just picked some random pictures. And this is by far my favorite part. So the kids are in school right now, just like you guys. They all go to school. But their seasons are different. So they just started school. Their summer goes from it's all of December and a little bit of January. our summer is August, or June through August. And so the kids would come out after school and we'd play with them. We played a lot of soccer. They love soccer. And we played a lot of tag, a lot of dolls. They're just regular kids. They just want to play. They just want to have fun. And so, yeah, these are some of the kids. I've known some, like, the one on top, I've known him for 3 years now. This one right here, I've known him since he was 6 months old. His name is Moises. And just watching the kids grow up from trip to trip to trip is a big blessing. The picture on your right, I'll talk about later, but those two boys, I've known them since they were 9. And watched them kind of grow up. They've watched me kind of grow up. And so I'll talk about that at the very end with those two. But there's some more pictures. Again, they're just kids. They just want to play. All the little boys in the top right, they love paper airplanes. And when they found out my husband can make paper airplane, which most people can, they all kept asking to make paper airplanes. So they all had a paper airplane by the end of the day, and they would not share. It was their airplane. But it was pretty fun to watch them interact and get to see some of the kids that I've known for a long time. Yeah, so they get a lot of sibling groups too. So actually these two are brothers right here. They're actually twins. So, yeah. And then just a few more pictures. So yeah, on the trip we worked, we played with kids. I got to take my family and a bunch of people from the group to town and actually get to show them a little bit of what it was like when I lived there. So if you remember back to last year, I talked about Guatemala before. When I was 18, I decided to go for a little bit longer, and I stayed there for about 2 months in the summer before I went to college. And so that's part of the reason it's so special to me, which we'll talk about. But I got to actually show my family and my husband, like, hey, this is where I went and bought groceries. This is the market that I walked to. It's not like your regular grocery store. I didn't want to put pictures up, but all of the meat is just hanging out. There's no fridges. You buy everything from street vendors, and so it's kind of gross looking. I didn't put it up there. But it's just a different way of living. And so I got to actually show my family and my husband to get them to experience that, because normally people that work at the children's home don't have time to take people into town. And so I was able to do that because I knew exactly where I was going. And I spent a lot of time there. So that was really cool. We took, I think, 36 people was our group this year. So that was pretty fun. All from Linden. There were a few people, I think we had some people from North Carolina join us. But it was just fun to get to know everyone in the group and hang out. But that was this trip. But I want to talk about, okay, why? Why go? Because that's a big part of it. One of the things my husband always used to ask me before this trip, he would always ask me, why do you keep going back to the same exact place? Wouldn't you want to go see somewhere new? Wouldn't you want to go do something else? Which is a fair question. I'm not opposed. But when you keep going back continually to the same place, I got to watch these kids grow up. And you get to actually build relationships, and they start to remember you and know who you are. So for example, every year when I get off the bus, you have to drive from the city to the children's home, and we get off the bus, it's pretty special when a kid comes running up yelling your name, and you haven't seen them in a year or 2 years. And just their excitement to see you. They see over 100 Americans, like, all the time. There's 25 groups every year that come serve at this children's home. And so for them to actually know me by name is pretty special. And so that's why I keep on going. But there are 2 verses that I want to talk about today. So the first is, a new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. And the other one is, then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. And one of the things I want to talk about today is love. Okay, and the first one. Going on a mission trip, the first time I went in 2018, the first step is always going. Right? I wouldn't be talking about, oh, this is my 5th right? If I didn't say yes to go the first time, and I'm not going to talk about the whole why I went and how I went, but when I went the first time, my reason for going was that I was going to serve them, that I was going to make a difference, I was going to do something, right? And what you keep hearing there is the word I, right? The focus was on me. I was going to do something, I was going to change their life, I was going to make their lives better. But at the end of the day, that's really not why you go serve. You don't go serve for yourself, right? And so when we look at the first verse, it says, "New command I give you, love one another as I have loved you." And then it keeps going to say, "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, you love one another." And so this verse talks about how as Christians, the way we love shows who God is, right? And so if we're not loving well, and we're not serving well, we're not showing who God is. And so one of the things I started to realize over the past and over this trip was love looks different, right? Our definition of love isn't always the same. I could go around and say, yeah, I love these shoes, or I love my car, I love basketball, I don't know, whatever it is, right? There's so many things we say we love, but what does that actually mean, right? What do we mean by I love whatever it is, right? What does that love look like? Is that the same love that God called us to? It's not, right? It's different. And so what does that love look like that we're called to do, right? How we're called to love. And what I always come back to with that, and what I'm always reminded of, is Jesus' love for us, right? When Jesus died on the cross, he gave literally everything. He gave everything for you, and that kind of love is something that we're supposed to show, right? We're supposed to try our best to be like Jesus, right? To show Jesus to others, and he literally gave everything, right? That's a different kind of love than the love you have for a sport or your shoes. It's a great kind of love. It's different. It's not all bad, but that's a different kind of love, right? And so how do we take a step and actually do that well, right? And I think the first step means that we're not always going to be comfortable, right? When I decided when I was 18 to go live in Guatemala for 2 months, do you think I was comfortable? I had never lived anywhere but my mother's house. Okay? I had never been outside of staying out, other than on short term, okay? But I lived at my mom's house up until the day I flew out, the day after I graduated high school, for a country by myself at the age of 18. Okay? It was not comfortable. I was a little bit terrified. Okay? Now, did that change me? Yes. Okay? God used that in so many ways to change who I am. He changed my relationship with him. He changed my faith perspective. And he'll use anything in your life. It doesn't have to be something that big, right? But for me, that was a huge part of my faith formation and actually how I became different, right? Because up to that point in my life, I was very focused on myself, right? All the choices I was making were for myself, right? Well, I want this, or I'm not pretty enough, so I'm going to do this, or I'm not good enough at this sport, so I'm going to do this, right? It was all things that I kept choosing to do throughout high school. For me, it was high school, that I didn't make me happy, didn't make me feel better, right? They were all things that were supposed to bring me joy, according to myself, right? I was going to change my circumstance. And it didn't work, okay? And so when we start to put ourselves not at the center, then we can start to figure out what that love of God actually looks like. Because when I went to Guatemala, I started to realize, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to focus on myself so much, right? I'm not the center of attention here, right? A lot of times we make ourselves the center of our world. That's how it works, right? And the world often tells us to put ourselves at the center. That's how it goes. But we're not called to be the center. We're called to step out and love others, right? When you serve, you're not serving to get something to benefit you, right? And that's where I was wrong the first time I went. I went to benefit myself. Thankfully, that's not what happened, right? God changed my perspective and my view on that. But when we take ourselves out of the center, things change, right? And that's the super important part here, is that to love others well, we need to take a step back and say, okay, God, what do you want from me? What do you want me to do? where do you want me to serve? And it looks different for all of us. For me, at that time in my life, it was going to Guatemala to serve, right? To love, to hang out with kids every day, to change diapers, to work. And that's what I did. And then it changes, right? God has a plan for your life, and it's a good plan. And you have to follow and ask Him what He wants you to do. Yeah, so that was the first verse, and that's that kind of love. And then the last verse just says, "Then He said to them, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." Right? And that's just a call to daily love others well and daily serve others. Right? And that's something we have to do every single day. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not easy. I still fail. I still focus on me a lot. Right? It's not something that's an easy thing to do. I can stand up here and tell you, "I do that. It's great." Okay? And it does. It is great. But it's something you have to think about every single day with every single choice you make. Right? And nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be able to do it the first time. And so it's just something we have to think about as serving and loving others in that. Okay? All right. To wrap up, I'm going to end with a story. Okay? So I said I was talking about these two at the very beginning, and I'm going to. So these are two of my most favorite people. The kid on the right, his name is Kevin, and this is Paolo. And they're both 17 right now. And so I have known them since they were 9. Okay? So I have watched them grow up. They have watched me grow up. Okay? And it's been really fun to get to know them and actually watch them mature. And so they're both in their final year of high school. So they both will graduate in December from high school. They have regular school there. And so most schools in Guatemala cut off at the 8th grade. Because that's as much as you need, then you can go work. But the Children's Home really believes that education is important, and so they send their kids all the way through 12th grade, which it is important. And so they're both going to graduate this year, and they are top, I think 2 in their class, maybe 2 or 3. But I want to tell you a little bit about them, okay? They know I asked them, so they know I'm talking about them this time. So both of them have been at the children's home since they were anywhere between 0 and 5 months. Okay, they're 17. They're 17. Okay? They have lived at this children's home their entire life. And I asked one of them, I said, "Would you change that? Would you change how you grew up?" And he said, "No." Okay, and so I'm going to explain that. Yeah, okay, so he said no. And I asked him, I said, "Well, why not?" He said, "Because this is where God put me." Okay, he's 17. He has experienced a lot of different things in his life. He does not know a single thing about his family. Okay, for a while when he was younger, they didn't know how old he was. They didn't have a birth certificate. Okay, they don't know when. They didn't know his birthday. They did eventually find out. But for like the first 2 years of his life, nothing was known. They didn't know his name. They didn't know his birthday. They didn't know anything. Okay, and that's the same situation a lot of these kids are in. And so one of them was found, I believe, could be getting this wrong, but behind a trash can, and the other one was abandoned somewhere else. Okay, so no recollection of their family. Neither one. The adoptions in Guatemala were open until 2008. Neither one were adopted. So now there's no adoptions, and so they just are growing up here. And so I was talking to this year, and I said, "Hey, what do you guys want to do after high school?" And they're not after high school. And they both responded with, "We want to get a job so that we can give back to the place that gave everything to us." That's pretty powerful, right? That's pretty special that they would actually want to give back to something that made them better, right? To something that raised them. It's a good thing, okay? But they both, one of them wants to be an engineer, I think, and the other one wants to be wants to study computer science. Okay, they're both smart enough. I totally believe both of them will. And then they want to be able to use that to give back, right? To the place that actually gave them everything they've ever known, right? If you ask them, they'll tell you without hesitation, "Yeah, that's my brother." Okay, they've grown up together. but He's always got a plan for me in that, okay? And so what I want to end with here, and I'll pray, is that if these two, okay, this is their favorite verse, and they can love others well despite their circumstances, okay, so can we. Okay, we can learn to love others well in whatever situation we're put in, right? Right now, that's at school. That's our situation. That is where we are called to serve. The verse before this talk about being a disciple. That is wherever you're put, okay? Whether that means next year you go to college, then that's at college. Or maybe you join the workforce. That's there. Or if you're coming back here next year, it's the same thing over and over. Or if you're at a job, that is where you're called to serve. And so you need to figure out, and my challenge to you is find out what God wants you to do, where you're at. How do you love others well? How do you serve and put others before yourself? Okay, it's a hard call. It's a hard thing to think about, right? Because it's so easy to put ourselves first. But we gotta put others first and love others well. Okay, so let's pray. Dear God, I just thank you for bringing us all here safely. I just pray that you would go with us and walk before us. I just pray that you would help us to serve you and love others as you loved us. Help us to carry out your call to be discipled well. I just pray that you would give us a happy Thursday and that you would give us a good Thursday. In Jesus' name, amen.
Last couple of years, we've brought missions information as far as like experiences from teachers to you. Most of your churches have the opportunity for you to go on missions, some more than others. And so I think if you've ever been on a mission trip, many of us, the term I use, or my brother uses, we were born in the right crib. Okay, we were born into a house, into a family that has allowed us the opportunities that might have the financial means, the time, and the ability to send you to a mission field to just show the love of God. And so I ask that you continue to pray about that. If that's something you want to do, please reach out. I don't know every church that has missions and every church that's going places, but I think it's something as you guys are getting into your next couple of years, that faith formation that Mrs. Dorr talked about, is it changes your life. Not necessarily 180, because a lot of us are going in the right direction, but it changes your perspective. It changes some of the ideas where you're headed as a young adult into the next step of your life. So, and I'll tell you, it's easier to do missions when you are younger than it is when you're older. Because when you get older, sometimes you have responsibilities that you can't just leave in the crib. You guys are awesome. You guys are dismissed. Thank you.